from getting arrested.
The leader of Hell's Angels motorcycle gang has been rearrested. Richard Devries was taken into custody at CCDC today, facing charges including conspiracy to commit murder and more than 20 counts of shooting at an occupied vehicle.
To members being prosecuted for violent crimes.
One of the largest violent crimes prosecutions against Hell's Angel in our county and likely our nation.
These are the most dangerous Hell's Angels leaders in the U.S. 1. Sonny Barger. When Ralph Hubert Sonny Barger Jr. founded the Oakland chapter in 1957, motorcycle clubs were loose collections of rowdy bikers who rode together and brawled in bars. Barger was 19 years old. Within a year, he'd relocated the national headquarters from San Bernardino to Oakland and become the de facto national leader. He created rules, territorial boundaries, and chapter structures. He realized that, yes, we could be rowdy bikers, but we need discipline. We need an army. The violence that built his reputation came early. On one occasion in Oakland, 1965, a bar patron insulted the Hells Angels. Barger took revenge in the most brutal way possible. He forced his pistol into the man's mouth and pulled the trigger. Barger later wrote in his autobiography what happened next. Since the was already shot in the head, I bent him over the pool table and shot him again. The conviction carried serious weight. Assault with intent to murder. In another incident, rival bikers stole his motorcycle. Barger tracked them down. He and his crew attacked them with spiked dog collars and used ball-peen hammers to break their fingers one by one. Barger's methods for enforcing club discipline were just as brutal. On January 22, 1972, police stopped a car during a chase. They opened the trunk and found 3 Hells Angels prospects bound, gagged, and beaten. One had his throat cut, but survived. When investigators traced it back to Barger, he was charged with attempted murder, kidnapping, and assault with a deadly weapon. Barger and the 2 others avoided the heavy charges. All 3 pleaded guilty to unlawful imprisonment instead. That spring, drug dealer Servio Aguero traveled to Oakland with $80,000 worth of cocaine and, unlucky for him, got into a dispute with Barger. Cross Barger on a deal, and you don't walk away. On May 21, 1972, Barger shot Aguero dead as he slept at an acquaintance's home, then ordered others to set the residence on fire. Although a witness testified, he watched Barger execute the sleeping man. Once again, Barger was acquitted on December 29, 1972. While the violence built fear, the organization built power. By 1969, Barger had opened chapters in New York, Salem, and Rochester. That same year, London became the first European chapter. Zurich followed in 1970. Within a decade, Barger had built an international network. Barger's reach extended beyond the club. Between 1967 and 1971, he maintained connections with Oakland Police Sergeant Edward Ted Hilliard. Over 15 meetings, Barger traded weapons, dynamite, and grenades in exchange for deals on arrests. Hilliard later testified that Barger offered to deliver the bagged body of a radical activist for every angel released from jail. But Barger's empire attracted attention. On August 30th, 1968, police raided the Oakland clubhouse in a massive operation. They arrested 33 members and seized $7,000 in heroin, $2,500 in other narcotics, firearms, including an M16 and M1 carbine, ammunition, knives, chains, and stolen merchandise. The notoriety only grew. By late 1969, the Hells Angels had become famous enough that the Rolling Stones hired them for security at Altamont Speedway on December 6th. In front of 300,000 people, Hells Angels stabbed and killed 18-year-old Meredith Hunter, a concert-goer, during the chaos. Barger was there. He later claimed he held a gun to Keith Richards' head to force the Stones to keep playing through the riot. The Angels walked away. The Stones never worked with them again. The law eventually caught up. Barger was convicted of heroin trafficking in 1974 and received 5 years in prison. Then, in 1988, a conspiracy to bomb the Outlaws clubhouse, 13 years total behind bars. But even from prison, the organization continued to expand. When Barger died in 2022 at age 83, the Hells Angels operated hundreds of chapters across 6 continents. From a 19-year-old demanding discipline in a small Oakland garage to the architect of a global criminal empire, Sonny Barger didn't just lead the Hells Angels, he became them. Number 2. Chuck Zitto. New York City in the early 1980s had its own brand of organized crime. The 5 mafia families controlled the streets. But when Charles Alfred Zitto Jr. founded the New York Nomads chapter of the Hells Angels in 1984, he brought a different kind of power to the city. Zitto didn't just run a motorcycle club. He connected it to the Gambino crime family and proved his loyalty through violence before he ever wore the patch. Zitto's background set him apart from typical bikers. His father was a professional welterweight boxer with 228 fights. Zitto followed him into the ring and compiled a 36-5 amateur record. He met Sandy Alexander, president of the NYC Hells Angels chapter and also a professional boxer, at Gramercy Gym. Alexander became his mentor when Zitto convinced his entire Chingaling Nomads motorcycle club to become prospective Hells Angels members. The established Angels were selective. Only Zitto and one other were recruited. The rest didn't cut, but recruitment was just the first step. Zitto's initiation into the club would involve something most prospects never do. May 9th, 1979. Queens, New York. Robert Giangara, a pizzeria owner with ties to low-level organized crime, walked out to his Cadillac Eldorado in the driveway of his Elmhurst home. He turned the key in the ignition. The bomb attached to the undercarriage exploded instantly. Metal and glass erupted across the driveway. Fortunately for Giangara, he survived without serious injury. Years later, John Joseph Pirate Miller, a former Hells Angel turned government witness, revealed what happened that morning. According to Miller's testimony, Zitto and Philip Lightfoot Kramer used a remote-controlled device from a model airplane to detonate C4 explosives attached to Giangara's vehicle. The planning, the explosives, the remote trigger, this wasn't amateur work. But the mystery didn't end with the explosion. When police investigated, they couldn't locate Giangara afterward. He disappeared entirely. Whether he went into hiding or met a different fate, no one found him. Then came the reward for the bombing. The next day, May 10th, 1979, Zitto and Kramer were voted in as full members of the Hells Angels. The timing wasn't coincidental. Lucky for Zitto, he was never charged with the bombing. His criminal record was just beginning. 3 months later, on August 2nd, 1979, police stopped Zitto for speeding in Harrison, New York. The car he borrowed contained a stolen pistol, ammunition, and brass knuckles. A routine traffic stop turned into his first weapons charge, proof that Zitto's violent reputation was now on law enforcement's radar. The FBI was watching. Between 1982 and 1985, federal agents ran a 3-year investigation called Operation Rough Rider, building a massive case against the Hells Angels. Zitto's phone calls were being monitored. He'd made contact with someone selling large quantities of methamphetamine, enough for conspiracy charges to stick. On May 2, 1985, everything came down. The FBI arrested 133 Hells Angels members and associates on racketeering and drug trafficking charges. FBI, DEA, and local police raided Zitto's New Rochelle home, searching for evidence. They also hit the NYC chapter headquarters on the Lower East Side, seizing at least 1 Uzi submachine gun and an undetermined quantity of drugs. During the investigation, prosecutors revealed something chilling about the NYC chapter. According to their evidence, prospective members had to kill or attempt to kill a target selected by the club as part of their initiation. Zitto's car bombing of Giangara and the timing of his membership were now making sense. This wasn't just a motorcycle club operating in New York. It was a criminal organization with mafia-level entry requirements, and Zitto had passed the test. Finally, Zitto was convicted of drug conspiracy and sentenced to prison from 1985 to 1991, 6 years behind bars. But even after serving his time, his reputation in the club remained solid. He'd spent 25 years in the Hells Angels. In 2004, Zitto left the club in good standing, an option reportedly extended only to the organization's most respected members. After leaving, Zitto built a second career as an actor and celebrity bodyguard. He played Chucky the Enforcer Pancamo on HBO's Oz, bringing his real-life experience to the role. But his legacy remained in New York. The professional boxer who brought C4 explosives and Gambino connections to the Hells Angels, proving that in the 5 boroughs, even outlaw bikers had to play by organized crime rules. 3. Joseph Lancia. Joseph Lancia ran the Rhode Island chapter of the Hells Angels as president, operating in territory already controlled by the Patriarca crime family, one of New England's most powerful mafia organizations. Lancia became president at approximately 26 years old, making him one of the youngest chapter presidents in recent Hells Angels history. What made Lancia significant wasn't just his youth or his leadership position. It was his ability to forge alliances with the Italian mafia and his willingness to use violence in broad daylight on busy streets. The Hells Angels and the Patriarca crime family had maintained an alliance for decades in New England. The relationship was built on mutual benefit. The Hells Angels provided muscle for mafia operations, acted as enforcers for debt collection, and helped with shakedowns of strip clubs for protection money. The mafia, in turn, provided political connections, business opportunities, and territorial respect. Lancia understood this. Dynamic and cultivated relationships with high-ranking mafia figures, including Edward Eddie Lotto, the underboss of the New England crime family. June 12, 2019. Richard Starnino, a former Hells Angels prospect involved in an ongoing dispute with Lancia, drove his Mack semi-truck past the clubhouse on Wendell Street in Providence's Federal Hill neighborhood. It was 10:40 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Busy streets, pedestrians, children nearby. Lancia stood on the sidewalk outside the clubhouse. As Starnino's truck drove by, Lancia drew a .25 caliber semi-automatic handgun and fired into the passenger side window. Starnino was not hit. Rhode Island State Police had the clubhouse under 24-hour surveillance using a pole camera. The camera captured everything. Lancia drawing his weapon and firing at the moving truck. Worse for Lancia, the Hells Angels' own security system also recorded his actions. When police raided the clubhouse later that day, they seized the internal surveillance footage. Lance Imore, a 57-year-old full-patch member, attempted to remove the video equipment to destroy evidence. Imore later pleaded no contest to tampering with evidence and received 4 years probation. The investigation revealed that Lancia had been president of the Rhode Island chapter, a chapter designated as an outlaw motorcycle gang by the United States Department of Justice, and involved in criminal activity both in Rhode Island and nationally through connections with other chapters. February 29, 2020. While out on bail for the shooting case, Lancia was at the Cadillac Lounge strip club in Providence. A fight broke out involving members of the Hells Angels. During the altercation, Lancia punched an individual, causing him to lose consciousness. The victim struck his head on the ground and was knocked unconscious. Providence Police Department officers were on the scene at the time and immediately arrested Lancia. The assault charge was added to his pending gun case. Lancia originally faced discharging a firearm when committing a crime of violence and assault with intent to commit murder, charges carrying up to 20 years each. After initially demanding a trial, he changed strategy. January 2022. Lancia pleaded no contest to felony assault and battery and carrying a gun without a license. The more serious charges were dismissed as part of the deal. February 18, 2022. Judge Kristen Rogers sentenced him to 15 years, 5 to serve, 10 suspended with probation. An 8-year no-contact order protected Starnino. June 2023. The parole board granted Lancia early release with strict conditions. No contact with Hells Angels members, no serving as club officer, no contact with convicted felons. He was released from the Adult Correctional Institution in Cranston. September 2024. Edward Eddie Lotto, 77-year-old underboss of the Patriarca crime family, died after battling cancer. Lancia sought permission from his parole officer to attend the wake, claiming he was going alone with no club members. At the wake, Lancia was flanked by 2 Red Devils members. Several Hells Angels members also attended, along with multiple people with criminal records. Lotto had been the major conduit between the mafia and Hells Angels for years. The funeral attendants demonstrated the continuing alliance. Lancia was taken back into custody for violating parole. At a September 2024 hearing, he admitted he had not informed the parole board of Lotto's criminal record when requesting permission to attend. The board released him again with GPS monitoring through July 2025 and prohibited him from wearing any Hells Angels clothing or having contact with the Red Devils or any criminal organization. Lancia remains on GPS monitoring as of late 2024. The young president, who shot at a moving truck in broad daylight, maintained alliances with the Italian mafia, and violated parole to attend a mob underboss's funeral, demonstrated the continuing connection between traditional organized crime and outlaw motorcycle clubs in New England. Number 4. Brian Wayne Wentz. Fresno sits in California's Central Valley, about 200 miles from both San Francisco and Los Angeles. The city became a critical hub for the Hells Angels in the 2010s, and Brian Wayne Wentz served as president of the Fresno chapter. What made Wentz's operation unique was the infrastructure he built, not just for violence, but for making evidence disappear. Wentz's Fresno clubhouse became known as a place where internal club problems could be solved quietly. The location was strategic, far enough from major cities to operate without constant scrutiny, central enough to coordinate with chapters across California. But Wentz's real asset was Merle Hefferman. Hefferman, another Fresno member, had connections at local funeral homes. When problems needed permanent solutions, Fresno had the infrastructure to eliminate not just people, but all traces of them that ever existed. Phone records later showed Wentz in constant contact with chapter presidents from Sonoma County in Massachusetts. The Fresno chapter under Wentz's leadership operated under a strict code of silence. Members made it clear that anyone who cooperated with law enforcement or their families would face severe consequences. The intimidation was systematic and kept witnesses silent for years. The FBI had been investigating since 2014, working to break through the wall of fear Wentz had built. In June 2022, after a 9-week trial, Wentz was convicted of murder in aid of racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, and participating in a racketeering conspiracy. His defense attorney argued that he was just following orders and that the witnesses were unreliable. The jury disagreed. In June 2024, Wentz was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The 45-year-old from Tulare would never be released from federal custody. The Fresno president, who built a disposal system for bodies, coordinated murders across state lines, and kept witnesses terrified into silence for a decade, had finally run out of crematoriums and intimidation tactics. 5. Merle Hefferman. October 2023. A federal judge sentenced Merle Hefferman to 4 years in prison for obstruction of justice. The charge was disposing of one body, but federal prosecutors believed he had made 4 bodies disappear. And he did it using a Fresno funeral home the Hells Angels called the Pizza Oven. Hefferman was not your typical outlaw biker. He had no criminal record. He organized annual bicycle charity drives for needy children in Fresno. He ran a social media presence as Bicycle King Fresno with nearly 1,400 followers. To the community, he was a family man who happened to ride motorcycles. To the Hells Angels, he was something far more valuable. He was the cleanup crew. For months, Hefferman cultivated a relationship with Levi Phipps, the manager of Yost and Webb Funeral Home in downtown Fresno. He expressed what Phipps later described as a fascination with the crematory. He asked for keys to the facility. He talked about wanting to make something disappear. Phipps understood exactly what that meant: human bodies. July 2014, Joel Silva was a sergeant-at-arms for the Sonoma County Hells Angels. He had made a critical mistake at a motorcycle event in New Hampshire, threatening a member close to Christopher Ranieri, the president of the Salem chapter. Silva had also been bad-mouthing leadership and struggling with a drug problem. 3 Hells Angels presidents across different states agreed on the solution. Silva had to be killed. On July 14th, Hefferman texted and called Phipps to prepare. The next day, Silva was driven to the Fresno clubhouse believing he could talk his way out of trouble. Brian Wentz, the Fresno president, shot him in the back of the head the moment he arrived. Federal prosecutors would later reveal a chilling detail. At the same time Silva was planning his 15-year-old daughter's birthday party, Hefferman was planning to cremate his body. The morning of July 16th, Hefferman called Phipps and told him to be at the crematory with the hangar door open. 2 young men arrived, threatened Phipps at gunpoint, and loaded Silva's body into the incinerator. After the cremation, Hefferman called Phipps again with a simple message: "Keep quiet." Silva's body was never recovered. His family spent 8 years not knowing where he was, unable to mourn properly. But Silva was not the only victim. Phipps testified that the same pattern repeated 3 more times. In February 2015, another body. In July 2016, another. Federal prosecutors believe the victims were Robbie Huff and Art Carasis, both Hells Angels members who disappeared during those periods. A 4th victim was identified as Juan Guevara. Each time Hefferman contacted Phipps right before the disappearances. Each time men arrived with bodies. Each time the pizza oven erased the evidence. Phone records obtained by the FBI corroborated every detail. The pattern was undeniable. Hefferman had built a system for making bodies disappear without a trace. The federal investigation resulted in charges against 11 Hells Angels members. Brian Wentz, Jonathan Nelson, and Russell Taylor Ott were all convicted of Silva's murder and sentenced to life without parole. Christopher Ranieri, who hatched the plot, was convicted in 2023. Hefferman pleaded guilty in December 2022. His attorney argued he was a community leader with no prior record. Prosecutors wanted 7 years. The defense wanted 30 months. Judge Edward Chen gave him 4 years. Prosecutors tried to introduce evidence about the 3 other cremations during trial. Judge Chen blocked it repeatedly. Hefferman was never charged with disposing of Huff, Carasis, or Guevara. His defense argued that if the evidence was strong enough, charges would have been filed. They were not. So Hefferman was convicted of making 1 body disappear, even though federal prosecutors believe he turned 4 human beings into ash at the funeral home the Hells Angels called the Pizza Oven. Number 6. Christopher Rainman Ranieri. The East Coast Hells Angels operated in territory already controlled by established organized crime families. Christopher Rainman Ranieri ran the Salem-Boston charter from the mid-2000s through 2017, building a network that stretched from Massachusetts to California. What made Ranieri dangerous was his ability to maintain criminal operations across multiple fronts: tax evasion, weapons charges, and coordinating violence across 3,000 miles. Ranieri's criminal record started locally. On January 6, 2005, Massachusetts State Trooper Daniel Crespi pulled him over on Route 107 for a traffic stop. Crespi observed what appeared to be a gun under Ranieri's jacket. Instead of complying, Ranieri fled, running straight into a marsh. Police spent hours coaxing him out of the swamp. He was arrested on multiple charges and given a 90-day suspended sentence for assaulting a police officer. But Ranieri's real business was money. He operated Boston's Best Silk Screening and Embroidery, a legitimate-looking business that served as a front for unreported income. In 2005 and 2006, Ranieri failed to report his personal taxes or those of his business. The IRS discovered the scheme. In 2005, Ranieri reported $49,000 in income, but had over $126,000 in deposits to his personal checking account. In 2006, he reported just $17,044 in income while depositing over $161,000. The discrepancy was massive, more than $100,000 per year in unexplained cash flowing through his accounts. On September 20, 2007, a joint investigation by the ATF, DEA, Massachusetts State Police, and IRS came to a head. Federal agents arrested 6 members of the Salem and Boston Hells Angels chapters in coordinated raids. Ranieri was among those arrested. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison and ordered to pay restitution to the U.S. government. As Salem chapter president, Ranieri coordinated operations between Massachusetts and California. Phone records later showed constant communication with chapter presidents in Sonoma County and Fresno. The 3,000-mile distance didn't stop him from arranging cross-country criminal activity. By October 2017, a grand jury indicted 11 members and associates, including Ranieri, on racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, narcotics distribution, assault, robbery, extortion, and witness intimidation charges. In May 2023, after a 2-month trial, Ranieri was convicted of racketeering conspiracy and conspiracy to commit murder in aid of racketeering. Ranieri faces a maximum sentence of life in prison and remains in federal custody awaiting sentencing. The man who fled into a swamp to avoid a gun charge, who laundered over $100,000 per year through an embroidery business, and who built a criminal network stretching from Massachusetts to California, now waits behind bars for his final sentence. The 7, Raymond. Ray Folks, Sonoma County, California. Raymond Ray Folks ran the Sonoma County chapter during the 2000s and 2010s, building a reputation for violence and criminal enterprise that spanned over 2 decades. Folks operated in the heart of Northern California wine country, controlling a territory 50 miles north of San Francisco. His criminal career demonstrated a pattern of escalating violence, from mortgage fraud and drug operations to orchestrating murders and systematic witness intimidation. Folks' criminal history stretched back to 2002, when federal authorities alleged he kick-started a bloody shootout between rival motorcycle gangs. The details remain sealed in court documents, but the incident established Folks as someone willing to initiate extreme violence. By 2005, when federal authorities pursued him on drug charges, Folks became a fugitive. The Sonoma County Hells Angels held a Keep Ray Free party and distributed T-shirts calling him a political prisoner. The public support showed Folks' standing within the organization. Members rallied openly, even as he evaded federal law enforcement. February 13, 2007. Folks was extradited to Las Vegas, Nevada, and convicted of committing violent crime in aid of racketeering. He was sentenced to 12 months imprisonment, but the prison sentence didn't slow his criminal operations. That same year, between July and August 2007, Folks orchestrated an elaborate mortgage fraud and money laundering scheme in Rohnert Park. He committed bank fraud to obtain a residence, then established an indoor marijuana cultivation operation inside. The grow house demonstrated Folks' ability to run sophisticated criminal enterprises while managing his Hells Angels leadership duties. By the time Folks became Sonoma County chapter president, he had built a network of members who understood that violence and intimidation were the tools of control. The chapter operated under strict enforcement. Anyone who cooperated with law enforcement or their families would face consequences. July 2014, Joel Silva, a Hells Angels member, made a fatal mistake. During Laconia Motorcycle Week in New Hampshire, Silva threatened a Salem charter member who was close to Christopher Ranieri, president of the Salem Boston chapter. Silva had crossed a line within the Hells Angels organization itself. Internal disrespect demanded a permanent solution. After Laconia, 3 chapter presidents met at Ranieri's home in Lynn, Massachusetts. Folks from Sonoma County, Jonathan John Nelson, also Sonoma County, and Ranieri from Salem, Boston. The decision was made. Silva had to be killed. 2 days before the murder, the presidents met again. On July 14th, they maintained constant phone contact. On July 15, 2014, Nelson arranged for Russell Ott to drive Silva from Santa Rosa to the Fresno clubhouse, 200 miles south. Silva trusted Ott completely. Ott was a former Sonoma County president with decades of experience. Silva believed he was handling club business. When they arrived at the Fresno clubhouse, Brian Wayne Wentz, president of the Fresno chapter, shot Silva in the back of the head. The next morning, Silva's body was cremated and his truck was set on fire. The evidence disappeared. Phone records later revealed the coordination. Folks had been in constant contact with Nelson and the other chapter presidents during the planning and execution. The Silva murder demonstrated how Sonoma County leadership orchestrated criminal operations across California, using trust and deception to eliminate problems within their own organization. November 2016. A former Hells Angels member had an affair with Folks' common-law wife. At the Sonoma County clubhouse, Folks spent hours beating the man with a baseball bat. During the attack, Folks forcibly tattooed the victim's forehead. Nelson joined in, pistol whipping the victim in the face. The beating left the man with facial fractures and permanent eye damage. At one point during the assault, Folks left the room and sexually assaulted the victim's wife. Then he returned to continue beating her husband. Folks threatened the woman to stay silent about what happened. The November 2016 beating showed Folks' capacity for sustained personal violence, hours of torture and sexual assault, not just a quick execution. While Folks built his reputation through violence, the FBI built a case against him. The investigation began in 2014 when Silva disappeared, tracking phone records and documenting the network connecting Sonoma County to Massachusetts to Fresno. October 2017, a grand jury indicted 11 Hells Angels members and associates on charges including racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, assault, robbery, extortion, and witness intimidation. Folks was among those charged. The indictment detailed a pattern of violent enforcement and systematic intimidation that had operated for years under Folks' leadership. May 2023. After a 2-month trial, a jury convicted Folks on multiple counts: racketeering conspiracy, assault with a firearm in aid of racketeering, and witness intimidation. Evidence included the pattern of violent enforcement, the systematic intimidation of witnesses, and Folks' role in maintaining the Sonoma County Charter's criminal operations. Prosecutors presented phone records showing coordination with other chapter presidents, testimony about the November 2016 beating, and evidence connecting Folks to the Silva murder conspiracy. Throughout the trial, federal authorities documented Folks' repeated violations of supervised release conditions, continuing to interact with club members when explicitly prohibited. He also faced sexual assault charges during this period, but beat those charges in court. June 2024. Judge Edward M. Chen sentenced Folks to life in prison without possibility of parole. The former Sonoma County president who operated marijuana grow houses through mortgage fraud, evaded federal authorities while his chapter threw Keep Ray Ray free parties, and orchestrated the execution of a fellow member 200 miles away, now serves life behind bars. His criminal career spanned over 2 decades, from the 2002 shootout to becoming a fugitive in 2005, to the 2014 Silva murder conspiracy, to the brutal 2016 beating and sexual assault. Number 8. Mark Papa Guardado. Mark Papa Guardado served as president of the San Francisco chapter of the Hells Angels in the 2000s, operating in one of California's most visible cities. What made Guardado significant wasn't just his leadership role. It was the respect he commanded across the organization and the violent reputation that came with his control of the San Francisco streets. Guardado built his power in a city where the Hells Angels had deep roots dating back decades. The San Francisco chapter operated openly, and Guardado's presidency made him the face of the organization in the Bay Area. His nickname Papa reflected the authority he held within the club. Members treated him with deference, and rivals knew his reputation. The Mission District became Guardado's territory. On September 2, 2008, Guardado was involved in a bar fight at the Clubhouse Tavern, a known biker hangout in the Mission. The confrontation escalated into violence, and Guardado engaged physically with another man. But this wasn't a typical bar brawl between equals. Christopher Brian Ablett, a member of the rival Mongols Motorcycle Club, was present that night. The Mongols and Hells Angels had been enemies for years, their conflict marked by violence across California. Ablett was a known Mongols member who'd come to San Francisco deliberately. He arrived carrying a foot-long military knife and a .357 Magnum revolver. He also wore a Mongols full-patch vest and a t-shirt that only hardcore Mongols members were permitted to wear. Word reached Guardado that a Mongols member was not only in his city, but openly displaying his colors in a Mission District bar. For a Hells Angels president, this was direct disrespect of his territory. Guardado confronted Ablett. The confrontation turned deadly. Ablett stabbed and shot Guardado outside the bar. The San Francisco chapter president died from his injuries. Guardado was 45 years old. The murder shocked the Bay Area biker community. Guardado wasn't just another member. He was the president of one of California's most prominent Hells Angels chapters. His funeral drew massive attention. Authorities estimated between 400 and 2,000 bikers attended Guardado's burial, riding from across California and beyond. The procession through San Francisco streets was a show of force. Hundreds of motorcycles, Hells Angels colors everywhere, a public display of the organization's size and reach. Christopher Ablett fled and became a fugitive. He turned himself into the police in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, 1 month later. In February 2012, a federal jury convicted Ablett on 4 felony counts: murder in aid of racketeering, assault with a deadly weapon in aid of racketeering, using a firearm during a violent crime, and using a firearm causing murder during a violent crime. Prosecutors proved Ablett had come to San Francisco armed and wearing full Mongols identification. The jury found that Ablett murdered Guardado to increase his status within the Mongols gang. On May 15, 2012, U.S. District Judge Richard Seaborg sentenced Ablett to life in prison without parole. The judge ordered 2 concurrent life terms plus 1 consecutive life term. There is no parole from federal life sentences. Ablett remains in federal custody serving his sentence. Guardado's death exposed the ongoing war between the Hells Angels and Mongols in California. The rivalry had already claimed lives across the state, and Guardado's murder in San Francisco showed that even chapter presidents weren't immune to the violence. His killing demonstrated that leadership came with lethal risk, especially in a city where rival clubs could operate openly. The San Francisco chapter continued after Guardado's death. The man who drew 2,000 bikers to his funeral had been killed on his own territory, proof that even chapter presidents weren't immune to the violence. Number 9. Jeffrey Jethro Pedigrew. Jeffrey Jethro Pedigrew ran the San Jose chapter as president and held a position law enforcement considered one of the 5 most powerful Hells Angels in the United States. While he worked 20 years as a heavy equipment operator for San Jose's Department of Transportation, police knew him as the charismatic leader of the chapter and called him the godfather of the Hells Angels in San Jose. His leadership made him a target in the ongoing war between rival motorcycle clubs. September 23, 2011. Pedigrew traveled to John Esquaga's Nugget Casino Resort in Sparks, Nevada, for the annual Street Vibrations Motorcycle Festival. The event drew thousands of bikers from across the country. That evening, just before 11:30 p.m., Pedigrew encountered members of the rival Vagos Motorcycle Club near Trader Dick's bar inside the casino. The Hells Angels and Vagos had been blood enemies for years, their feud rooted in competition for territory throughout California, especially the San Jose and Santa Cruz areas. When the 2 groups crossed paths on the crowded casino floor, a brawl erupted. Within seconds, the fight escalated from fists to gunfire. Multiple shots rang out on the casino floor, turning the entertainment venue into a shooting gallery. Ernesto Gonzalez, the ex-president of the Vagos chapter in Nicaragua, drew his weapon. Gonzalez shot Pedigrew multiple times in the back, 4 or 5 shots according to witnesses. Pedigrew, 51 years old, died from his wounds. 2 Vagos members, Leonard Ramirez, 45, and Diego Garcia, 28, suffered non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. Hells Angels member Cesar Villagrana was arrested on suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon and possession of a stolen firearm after casino surveillance showed him shooting into the crowd, though police couldn't confirm if his shots hit anyone. The violence didn't end that night. On Saturday morning, September 24, 2011, a second shooting occurred in Sparks. A motorcyclist was shot in the stomach by someone driving a BMW with tinted windows. The shooter fled and was never caught. Police investigated possible links to the casino shooting. As a result of both incidents, authorities canceled the Street Vibrations event, and Sparks Mayor Gino Martini declared a state of emergency. Petigrew's funeral drew approximately 4,000 bikers to Oak Hill Cemetery in San Jose on October 15, 2011. The massive turnout demonstrated his standing within the organization. But even the funeral became a crime scene. During the service, Stephen Towson, a 52-year-old bail bondsman, Petigrew's close friend, and sergeant-at-arms of the San Jose chapter, was shot and killed at approximately 1 p.m. A fellow Hells Angel shot Towson during what appeared to be an internal quarrel among club members. Towson died later at the hospital. Police interviewed witnesses but made no arrests. Ernesto Gonzalez, 55 years old from San Francisco, faced trial for Petigrew's murder. Prosecutors argued Gonzalez had carried out an orchestrated assassination plot stemming from the long-running feud between the Vagos and Hells Angels. Gonzalez claimed self-defense. He testified he shot Pedigrew because Pedigrew and another Hells Angel were kicking a fellow Vago so hard in the head he feared they would kill him. They left me no choice but to act as I did in defense of my brother, Gonzalez told the court. August 2013. After only 5 hours of deliberation, the jury convicted Gonzalez on 5 felony counts, including first-degree murder, challenge to fight resulting in death, conspiracy to commit murder, carrying a concealed weapon, and discharging a firearm in a structure. The jury also agreed that gang enhancement penalties should be added. October 3, 2013, Washoe District Judge Connie Steinheimer sentenced Gonzalez to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. However, she added a gang enhancement to the penalty, meaning Gonzalez would have to serve a minimum of 8 additional years before he could be freed, which, in your case, may not be particularly realistic, Judge Steinheimer told the 55-year-old defendant. Gonzalez wouldn't be eligible for parole until age 83. Petigrew's mother, Jerry Pedigrew, confronted Gonzalez from the witness stand during sentencing. "I'm sorry, but I consider you a coward shooting my son in the back, not once, but 4 or 5 times," she said. "You killed someone who had a big heart, believed in paying it forward with everyone. He had 1 million friends. He had no enemies." Gonzalez remains in Nevada state custody, serving his sentence. 10. William Gary, Tramp, Potter. William Gary, Tramp. Potter ran the Tucson chapter of the Hells Angels as president during the 1990s and 2000s, controlling operations in Arizona's desert territory. Potter built a violent reputation through weapons trafficking and drug use, eventually spiraling into paranoia and methamphetamine addiction that would cost him his membership, his freedom, and another man's life. Potter's criminal history stretched back years before the murder. In 1999, federal agents raided a downtown Tucson business where Potter worked. They found a cache of weapons inside. Potter was charged with having weapons. He already had 4 prior felony convictions and was prohibited from owning firearms. After pleading guilty, in 2002, he was sentenced to time served. But the weapons charge was just one incident in a pattern of criminal behavior. By the late 2000s, Potter's methamphetamine use had become a serious problem. His drug addiction combined with growing paranoia, he believed Hells Angels members thought he was a government informant. Whether the suspicions were real or imagined, the club expelled Potter. For a former chapter president, expulsion meant losing status, protection, and the identity he'd built over decades. July 9, 2010, Randall Scott Fiel went missing. Fiel was 50 years old and known to Potter. The defense would later claim the 2 men were friends. Fiel's family reported him missing on Friday, July 9th. Investigators found Fiel's truck abandoned approximately 2 miles from Potter's home, south of 3 Points, near the 17300 block of South Sierrita Mountain Road. Phone records showed the last call Fiel received came from a phone owned by Potter. July 12, 2010, Pima County. Sheriff's deputies arrived at Potter's property as part of the missing persons investigation. While searching the grounds, detectives noticed a disturbed area of dirt in the yard. They began digging. A few feet below the surface, they found Feel's body buried in a shallow grave. The body showed obvious signs of trauma. Autopsy results confirmed the victim was Feel. He had been shot twice, once in the face, the bullet instantly paralyzing him, then once in the back of the head. His body had been dragged and dumped into a pit filled with trash and human waste. July 13, 2010, deputies arrested 54-year-old William Gary Potter and charged him with first-degree murder. His wife, 51-year-old Karen Ann Potter, was arrested and charged with hindering prosecution. During the arrest and subsequent search, authorities discovered Potter possessed 7 guns and an explosive device, all illegal for a convicted felon with 4 prior felony convictions. Potter's defense attorney, Paul Eckerstrom, argued his client acted in self-defense against File, claiming the two men were friends, but that File was known for having a temper. Eckerstrom also claimed Potter deserved a reduced sentence because at the time of the crime, Potter was dealing with schizophrenia and facing real threats from Hells Angels members who believed he was a police informant. The defense requested a 10-year sentence. Prosecutors disagreed. Deputy County Attorney Jonathan McGinley argued that the fact Potter needed protection from the Hells Angels wasn't a reason for leniency. He had once been a proud leader in the organization. More importantly, Potter had 4 prior felony convictions, was prohibited from possessing weapons, yet had 7 guns and an explosive device. The weapons violations alone demonstrated his continued disregard for the law. April 2012. Potter pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and 2 counts of possession of a deadly weapon by a prohibited possessor. He faced between 10 and 37 years in prison. July 2012. Pima County Superior Court Judge Christopher Browning sentenced Potter. File's family attended the sentencing. His sister Carrie Frisbee described Potter as someone who took away a man whose aura filled whatever room he was in with love, light, happiness, and friendship. File's family described him as an attentive man who called his grandmother and mother every day, who was good with his hands, and who would help anyone in need. Judge Browning acknowledged the case was not simple. Neither man was exclusively a good person or a bad person. However, Browning noted that Feel wouldn't have died if Potter hadn't possessed the guns. Browning sentenced Potter to 13 years for the murder. He added 2 6-year prison terms for the weapons charges, running concurrently to each other but consecutive to the murder sentence. Total sentence, 19 years in prison. Potter remains in Arizona state custody, serving his 19-year sentence. If granted parole at his earliest possible release date, Potter would be 73 years old. These 10 leaders built power through violence and intimidation. Some died violently. Others face life sentences in federal prisons. A few walked away, but most never escaped the consequences of the violence they orchestrated. The Hells Angels continues operating worldwide. But to see what really happens when a biker snitches and ends up behind bars, click the next video to see exactly how it plays out inside prison walls.